Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be going over the draft grades for the NFL draft that just concluded today. I had such a fun time watching the whole draft these past 3 days. It's been a blast. I hope you guys have too. And of course, if you have, leave a like on the video. It does help me out a lot. Be sure to subscribe for more content. We're going to be doing rebuilds with all the new teams, all the new rookies. We're going to be doing a lot more of draft grades as well. Just a bunch of different stuff around the NFL, so make sure to stay tuned on the channel by putting those notifications on after you hit that subscribe button. But today we're going to be doing the New York Giants draft grades. They are my favorite team, so I wanted to do a separate video just for them, just for my own team. Every other team, I'm going to do division-wise, so the next video will probably be the NFC East, just to kind of get that out of the way, and then we'll go division by division on draft grades to see how everyone is and where they're at, basically, after these drafts. So without further ado, we're going to get started with this one, and of course, you see him on the screen here. The first pick for the Giants, pick 4, Andrew Thomas. Now, if you missed my last video yesterday, or 2 days ago now actually, I went through the whole first round and graded each pick at the first round. I gave this one an A+, then I'm giving it A+ now. There was not a better tackle on the board than Andrew Thomas. There hasn't been all offseason. A lot of people were fluctuating on who was the better tackle between Wirfs and Wills and Becton and all these different things. Thomas has been the best lineman on almost every draft board in the NFL, on everyone that's had realistic rankings board. He's done nothing to lose that. He's been a starter for 4 years. He's played right tackle, left tackle. He's played it all at a high level. He's got great feet. He's got a great agility. He's got great upper body strength. His arms go out wide. I mean, he has all the tools to be a star linebacker at the next level, a guy who's going to be a franchise guy for a long time. And, it's a little scary picking an offensive lineman because of how bad the last one didn't work out in Eric Flowers in the first round. But when you look at what Andrew Thomas can do, it's really no way in hell that this one is going to work out as bad as what Eric Flowers did. So Andrew Thomas, he's going to be able to protect Daniel Jones' front side for this season, and then after this year, we'll probably get the Solder contract off the boards, and we'll be able to move him to the left side because of somebody else going to the right, which we'll talk about in a couple minutes. But Andrew Thomas, I love the pick. A lot of people wanted Isaiah Simmons here. I get it. I was a big Isaiah Simmons fan. Last minute, I kind of did switch and say, you know what, Andrew Thomas I think is going to be the pick. I think Isaiah Simmons is going to fall. He did fall a little bit, not out of the top 10, but he did fall to 8 where the Cardinals took him. But overall, I think Andrew Thomas was the right pick for the Giants. If they were going offensive linemen, it's the right way to do it here. And now Saquon and Daniel Jones are protected for the far future in this point. Then we got over to the second round where the Giants went ahead and selected safety Xavier McKinney out of Alabama. I gave this one an A-. Now, the reason it's an A- and not an A or an A+, it's pretty simple. I didn't see safety as big of a need as other positions that we could have got. The guy that I wanted here, who would have been the perfect fit to come into our team and address the biggest need that we've had other than offensive line, which is edge rusher, is Yetur Gross-Matos, who fell out of the first round. A lot of people didn't see him falling out of the first round. I had him falling out of the first round in one of my last mock drafts. People call me crazy for it, but I said, look, this is just a guy that could fall out. He did. He was still there on the board at 36, and unfortunately, we did not take him. We did go and take Xavier McKinney instead. Now, that is nothing against Xavier McKinney. I think he's going to be a beast of a safety. Now, what are you going to get from McKinney? That's the question. It's kind of going to be something to figure out for the coaching staff, definitely. Patrick Graham's going to have a lot of fun with this defense, but he's definitely got to figure out where everyone's going to go. Because when you look at it, Jabril Peppers has his spot pretty much locked down, I think, at strong safety. When he was healthy, he was by far the best player on the defense, in my opinion. He showed that, and that's just kind of what it is. Free safety, Julian Love had a very promising rookie year, something that he can build on at the next year. So you're in this kind of weird spot where you can use McKinney as a third safety, run 3 safeties, run a nickel package. You can have him play there. He's a good sub linebacker. He's great at tackling as well. So he's able to do that. When I was talking to one of my friends, another Giants fan, but he's also a huge Alabama fan, he said the thing about Xavier McKinney is he's kind of Landon Collins coming out, except with a little bit better pass coverage, which is a good thing for Giants fans because we know how bad Collins' pass coverage was. But when you look at what McKinney can bring, I think he could fall in as a sub linebacker, or maybe even move Peppers to sub linebacker, because we know Peppers has struggled in the pass game a little bit as well. I think you're able to move people around. I think you can play McKinney, Peppers, and Love all at the same time, but I do think that even though McKinney's there, yes, you can run McKinney and Peppers and just run with it and have Love just be a depth guy. That's totally okay. I just think Love had such a promising rookie year that you could build on that, and he could become a starting free safety. So what they're going to do with this is kind of the weird part, which would have knocked it down to probably from an A+ to an A, and then the fact that Yetur Gross-Matos is still on the board, and there was a bunch of other players that were possible. Zach Baum was still on the board. He fell a lot, though. You just look at other guys that were still available at positions that we need, like edge rusher, like interior line, like center. There's just different things that they could have done here. I'm not against the pick at all. I think that Xavier McKinney is a great pick. I think he's going to be a great player. He probably would have been my third best player for the Giants at that spot behind maybe, I don't know, man. I can't even think of off the top of my head. But Turgos Matos, I know for sure was one. I was like, oh my god, if we get him here, that'd be huge. I like Terrell Lewis as well. There's a lot of different guys. I think edge rusher was a bigger need, and we'll talk about that later on. But Xavier McKinney, long enough on this piece of the video here. A- for him. I think is a very good pick. I can't wait to see what he does in a big blue uniform. I think they could have went edge rusher, but overall, great pick, A-. Then we go over to the third round, and a guy who I did not think that they were going to select here in Matt Peart out of UConn, offensive tackle. And the more and more I sat and thought about it, I'm like, holy shit, Gettleman, that was a great pick. Once again, I wanted an edge rusher. I saw Biadasz on the board. I saw Curtis Weaver on the board. There's a lot of different guys that were still on the board. A lot of people were dropping in this draft, which is kind of crazy. But Matt Peart, when they selected him, I was like, okay, this is interesting because you took Andrew Thomas, who's probably going to be right tackle for this year, but now you set up this diagram where you have Zeitler and Hernandez as your guards for the long term. You know that. Those are two very, very solid offensive guards in the NFL, okay? You have Andrew Thomas. He can play either tackle spot, left or right. Matt Peart, though, Matt Peart's a right tackle. So when you look at it, going into this year, Nate Solder on the left, Andrew Thomas on the right, Matt Peart just learns. That's all he has to do. Sit back, learn. Same with Nick Gates. He sits back and learn. Next year, you go into it, Andrew Thomas moves right back over to that left side, protects Daniel Jones' blind side. Then you have Matt Peart, a third-rounder, who's now sat and developed behind a guy who's played with the Patriots in Super Bowls in Nate Solder. He's learned with a rookie at his age who is a higher level than him in Andrew Thomas. He's going to be able to play the position a lot better. He's got Zeitler right to his left as well. That's going to be an amazing thing to do. This is more of a down-the-road pick, which is a little bit why it doesn't get an A+, is because, is it going to help us immediately? No. Could something else have helped us immediately? Yes. I think that going interior offensive lineman here, like a center, I think Lloyd Cushenberry might have still been on the board. I'm not entirely sure. I don't remember the whole board at the top of my head. I know Biadasz was still on the board. I think Hennessy was still on the board as well. So they could have went interior line here. But Matt Peart is a solid pick. The more and more I thought about it, I did really like the pick here. Another hog molly. Gettleman said after the draft he wanted to fix his line once and for all. Judge said the same thing. He wants this line to be done once and for all, and that's what they're doing here. Andrew Thomas and Matt Peart, that is a solid duo coming into the 2021 season. Then we go on over to round 4, where I forgot this guy was even on the board, and when I realized we took him, I was beyond happy. A+ for Darnay Holmes in the 4th round out of UCLA. This is a guy who I had a second round grade on, going early to mid second round. For him to be there in round 4, where we were picking, I mean, that was just insane for me. And to get him there to pair alongside Bradbury and Baker going into next season, I am ecstatic to see what he can do. I mean, this corner position has been such a struggle for the Giants lately, and it's simply just because we keep drafting guys in the later rounds who just don't pan out. Jenkins, I loved as a corner. We paid him a lot of money. It was time to let him go, obviously because he was past his prime, and we were kind of going in a new, younger direction. We've seen that with the past few years of moves. But when you look at it, we were trying Sam Beal. We were trying Corey Ballantyne. We were trying all these different guys, and none of them were really sticking. And that's some of them showed a couple flashes of good games, but in reality, none of those guys should be above the 4th corner in the depth chart, maybe 3rd on a good day. When you get a guy like Darnay Holmes, he should be competing for a 2nd or 1st spot on most teams, in my opinion, coming into this year. And now to have him there with Baker and with Bradbury, that is 3 very solid corners to me. I think that is good. I think it kind of reminds me of what the Cowboys kind of had last year, where they had Byron Jones, plus they had Awuzie, and they had all these different guys who they just have groomed in those mid, late day 2 and early day 3 guys, to where they've grown them. Anthony Brown, Awuzie, Jordan Lewis, all these guys, they just have solid cornerback play, and that's what the Giants need to do, and I think that's what they're doing here. Baker is going to be a very solid number 2. He showed a lot of better flashes in the second half of the season than he did in the first. I think he's got his head on straight this coming into this season, especially with Bradbury there to help him. I think Bradbury's going to help a lot, and you add Darnay Holmes there to be that nickel corner. Absolutely huge for the Giants defense. I think this is going to be a very, very, very good pick. Holmes jerseys are going to be selling off the shelves in a few years. Then we go over to the pick in the 5th round, I believe, and that was Shane Lemieux out of Oregon. I gave this one a C+. I did not like the pick. I love the player. That's why it's a C+. I really do. I love Shane Lemieux as a player. I think that he has such a talented upside. Never missed a game. He was always productive. He is exactly what the definition of a hog molly is. He is a huge, huge lineman. He is able to just toss people around. Whatever he wants to do with them, he can do. The problem is that we have Zeitler and we have Hernandez at the guard positions. I don't see a way either of those guys lose their starting job for the next 5 years. I think those guys are there to stick around for however long. Are you going to sit Shane Lemieux for 5 years and then play him when Zeitler's ready to retire? I don't think that's the case. Are you going to move him into center? It's possible. Are you going to move Zeitler to Hernandez in the center? That's possible. But if you're going to do that, why wouldn't you just take Tyler Biadasz, who, in my opinion, was one of the best centers in the draft class, who just fell for some reason into the Cowboys' lap. Thanks for that as well. But you have the draft capital. You could have traded up. You could have gotten him because the Cowboys traded into the Eagles spot and got him at the end of the 4th round. So you could have went up. You could have got him. Another position you could have looked at is Curtis Weaver was still there out of Boise State. Really big fan of him. You could have went edge rusher here. I just don't see guard as such a huge spot to fill, especially when you look at what was still on the board even a few picks before you. This is something that they definitely could have addressed earlier. Going with a center or going with an edge rusher then, and this wouldn't have been such a bad pick, but looking at center and edge being some of the top needs for this team, in my opinion, and not addressing it, but yet going for a guard when that's probably our most set position on our team, I didn't really like the pick. Like I said, C+ because I love the player. If this was a trash player, it would have been a complete F. But I love the player. I think he has such talented upside. If you can fit him into the middle, I think that he would go up to an A or an A+. I think his pick would be great, but just I'm not sure if he can play that center position because Jake Hansen held that down all his years in college. So we'll see what can happen here. Like I said, love the player, and that's all I'm going to say. I love the player, don't like the fit. Think we could have got something different, but Shane Lemieux is a part of Big Blue, so welcome to Big Blue, Hog Molly. Going on over to the 6th round, and we got Cam Brown, a linebacker out of Penn State. Now, I really, really like this pick. It's an A for me. Not an A+, just because when you get to these late rounds, there's no perfect pick, in my opinion. I think I might have given an A+ actually later, but there's really not any perfect pick. But when you look at what you can get out of Cam Brown, it's just production, man. He was a tackling machine at Penn State. Anywhere there was to get a tackle, he was there, and that's what we need there. We had a good year out of Ryan Conley his first 2 games until we saw that he obviously got injured, unfortunately, and he was out for the year. So hopefully he bounces back to where he was last year because I know a lot of Giants fans really liked Ryan Conley in those first few games. You have a guy like Blake Martinez who's just a tackling machine as well, so Cam Brown can learn behind him as well. I think that this is definitely just a depth move, and I think that's why it's a solid pick here. You just add some depth, add a guy who can relate to the guys on your roster, so that way if an injury does unfortunately happen, you have a guy who at least knows how to play their game at a similar level to do what they can do at obviously a lesser level, but in a way to where you don't have the offense really target this guy because they're like, oh, he's out of position, he doesn't know what he's doing. So Cam Brown, solid pick. Then in the 7th round, we finally got an edge rusher in Carter Coughlin out of Minnesota. I love this pick, man. I was a really big Carter Coughlin fan early on in my draft scouting process, kind of just when the offseason started. I thought he just had a lot to offer, especially with how good Minnesota has been. I think that he was really good with that. But once again, another guy who just produced so well at Minnesota. He was there just producing, and that's what you really want from a guy. He's quick off. He's not the quickest off the edge, is what I meant to say. He's not quick. He's not the quickest off the edge. There's definitely room to grow there with his reaction time and his quickness off the edge. But he's really, really fundamentally sound. He's able to get around tackles, tight ends. He's able to push through them. He uses his hands very well. This is a guy who, even though he's a late-round pick, could see some playing time. I mean, especially with the edge position being where it is. Marcus Golden's still not re-signed. I don't know if we really do that because he was kind of a product of the Betcher system because he knew exactly what he was doing in that system. As much as I love Golden and love what he did for us last year, I think that it might be time to pass the torch. We do have 2 young edge rushers in Lorenzo Carter and O'Shane Ximines, who I think it's time to let Carter and Ximines loose. Ximines had a good rookie year. Carter's been producing decently for the past few years. It's time to let him loose. Both of them being 3rd-round picks, I believe. So I think that's what the Giants said. I think that Joe Judge and Gettleman kind of came to the agreement that, hey, I think these guys are ready to play. So if we let Carter and Ximines start next year, I will not be upset. I think that those are very solid players. I think that's the best way to make them grow is to put them out there with a D-line like Leonard Williams, Dexter Lawrence, and, of course, oh, my God, Dalvin Tomlinson. I almost forgot the name. I said, and, of course, I almost forgot the name. But anyway, Carter Coughlin, I think that's very good. I think he's going to be good depth behind there. Another guy where you can sit and let him grow into a better player and then see what he can do on the edge. But as of right now, linebacking play isn't going to be his specialty. It's probably going to be the special teams unit, the punt return team, getting through, just that kind of stuff, field goal block. I think that's going to be good for him, though. I think that he'll be able to do it because of his D-line moves. He might be able to be a really good special teamer, block a lot of punts and stuff. So we'll see what he can do there. But Carter Coughlin, solid pick for the Giants. Then we going over to T.J. Brunson, the linebacker out of South Carolina. I gave this one a B+, because we're kind of getting redundant on the linebackers here. Carter Coughlin, even though he's an edge rusher, still qualifies as a linebacker. We got Cam Brown a round ago in the draft. So going after another linebacker seems a little redundant to me. I like the player. I think that he's going to be a solid player. I think he's going to be a good depth piece, another good special teams guy. Everything I basically just said about the last pick and Carter Coughlin and Cam Brown before that pretty much goes with this guy as a player as well, for being a day 3 pick. But once again, I just think that linebacker, I guess it is a need. Pretty much Blake Martinez is the only interior linebacker. I just don't see it as big of a need to draft 3 picks in a row at the linebacker position. I just don't see it as that. They could have went for maybe a receiver here, got a return specialist. There's running backs on the board. Benjamin might have still been on the board. DJ Dallas, I think, was still no. DJ Dallas got picked earlier, but there's a lot of different places you can go. Get a depth running back behind Dion Lewis to groom. You can get another tight end. We saw what we got out of Caden Smith when we signed him from the 49ers waivers last year, who was a 6th rounder. Even then, you go to the D-line, get another D tackle, learn behind Dalvin Tomlinson since last year. Maybe get a guy that can grow there. I just think there's a lot of things you could have done, more versatility. I mean, heck, even another quarterback to pop behind Daniel Jones and Colt McCoy, because Colt McCoy is up there in age. He's pretty much just signed as a backup. If we get another backup that's as good as him, we don't need to pay him. Long story short, I think there was a lot of other options you could do here than T.J. Brunson. So, I can't even forget about kicker. Rodrigo was still on the board. Syracuse's kicker was still on the board. He's a punter, I think, actually. But Tyler Bass was still on the board, who I was big on. There was a lot of things you could have done here. I just didn't see T.J. Brunson as a need, especially where you just picked linebackers before. Love the player, don't like the pick, don't like the fit. That's going to be what I think of T.J. Brunson. Then we go here to the A+ of the 7th round. And like I said, I think there was one more, and there was Chris Williamson, the cornerback out of Minnesota. Love the fit and love where we got him. This is a guy who you're probably going to use on special teams as well. It's a 7th rounder, but when you look at what he can do, he adds a depth piece to that secondary, who I keep saying is poor. Every time you draft a rookie in the 7th round, you can let one of the old rookies go. Sam Beal, I'm tired of dealing with, is he going to come? Is he going to do anything? Let's get rid of him. Corey Ballantyne, I like him as a player. We'll see what he can do. But other than that, adding just more depth to the position, I think is good. And maybe he'll make the roster, maybe he won't. But overall, I think this is a solid pick. This is something you should be targeting in those later rounds. A guy who can be versatile on special teams and on defense, and that's what Chris Williamson can do from Minnesota. I think that's a good pick. A+ for me. Don't see a way they could have really done a better pick here. Then at the Mr. Irrelevant spot, I love how the Giants stopped making the old templates for everybody. They made the templates for everybody. You saw the same one in the background for everybody, and they just didn't make one for Tay Crowder. But Mr. Irrelevant is a C grade for us. Yes, he was from Georgia, which is a power school. Not the most productive college career. That's why he was Mr. Irrelevant. But the thing about Tay Crowder is that where the hell is he going to play on our team? We just drafted 3 linebackers in the past 4 picks. 2 of them were interior linebackers as well. So it's like, why were we going after a 4th linebacker? If I was saying T.J. Brunson was a extra pick at linebacker, didn't really need it, but it's a B+, what do you think I was going to do with this one? Like I said, I like the player. I think he has upside. I think he'd be able to be a good special teamer. But why would you get another linebacker when, this is the last pick before the players start getting signed, before their UDFAs, And why would you take a guy who I think you probably could have got as a UDFA? If you really want to take Crowder that much, you could have signed him as a UDFA. But when you look at who was there, Thaddeus Moss was still on the board. Rodrigo Blankenship was still on the board. There's different guys you could have taken who just had a lot more upside. You can't tell me Thaddeus Moss doesn't have upside. Even though he didn't have the most productive LSU career, you can't say he doesn't have an upside to where you might want to take him to learn behind Evan Ingram and a Caden Smith and even a Vine Toy Lolo or a Rodrigo Blankenship. When I, as a Giants fan, I loved Rosas a year ago, but last season, the 2019 season, it was horrid to watch him. If he came out for a kick, I was like, oh shit, we're going to miss it. We're not going to get the points. That's how much confidence I lost in Rosas, and this is a quick kicker league. Why not get a guy like Rodrigo who you can at least have compete for the job? What's the worst that happens? You cut him? Oh no, you cut Mr. Irrelevant. That doesn't happen almost every single year. I think this was just a dumb pick here. Unfortunately, this is a not the best pick for me. I wish they could have done something else, especially gone for the UDFA, but overall, the draft kind of overstalls this. I mean, like I said, this is Mr. Irrelevant. He's probably not going to make a roster. That's usually what happens, and as well as most of the UDFAs might not even make a roster after. But I think that you could have done something different here than another linebacker being more redundant than you already were. But, like I said, I like the player, just didn't like where they went when they could have went other places. That's pretty much been the only bad grades I've given, is that nothing against the players. I think the players are very good, but it's just the spot of where they were and what they could have got. So now at the final grade for the whole Giants draft, I give it an A+, man. Missing a Mr. Irrelevant pick and taking Xavier McKinney over your Gross Matos are great freaking problems to have. Got to make sure the YouTube bots don't hear me, but that's awesome. I mean, when you look at it, you solve the tackle position in Andrew Thomas for the immediate future right away. Next, you have another tackle who's going to fill in another year, which is great for that. You have Xavier McKinney, who's going to be a weapon on that defense, who was a top 20 player for me, in my personal opinion, fall to you at 36. That's awesome. You go and look. I mean, that's what happened to Landon Collins when he came out too. So to get a guy like McKinney as well, that's awesome for us. You even go look. You get LEMIEUX later on. You get a nice edge rusher at the end with Carter Coughlin, another guy in the interior, and Cam Brown. You're able to do a lot of versatility here with all these guys. I think that especially, and I can't even forget about Darnay Holmes being a number 3 corner pretty much right away, a second-round grade falling to you in the 4th. I mean, these are guys who are going to make immediate impact for a team that's honestly looking to jump on the opportunity for this NFC East that's pretty much for the taking. I mean, the Eagles shit the bed on their draft. They took Jalen Hurts and Jalen Reagor, who were both, weird picks for them. You already have D-Jax. They just traded for Marquise Goodwin as well. I mean, it's a weird type of thing happening in the Eagles locker room, especially when Justin Jefferson was still on the board, Brandon Ayuk, all these different guys, they went for Reagor. It was kind of weird. Then they go in the next round, they take Jalen Hurts, basically wasted a second-round pick for the next 5 years. You look at the Cowboys, they're paying all these people. They haven't paid Dak. Dak just, unfortunately, I mean, rest in peace to Jace Prescott. I mean, losing his life, that was horrible to hear, especially during such a good night in the draft. But you look at a guy like him, he's going to need to get paid. You have to do all these things. CeeDee Lamb is there, which is a great pick for them. Dallas had a freaking amazing draft. I will say that now before I get into the video tomorrow. Dallas had an amazing draft. So I'm excited to talk about them. But, it's something where it's for the taking, especially with their quarterback position being at there. And the Redskins are just the Redskins. I think Kyle Allen will probably win the quarterback job there. Chase Young is terrifying. But overall, I think the Giants are able to fight for the NFC East. I don't think they're going to be a great team. 8 wins is probably a cap off for me next year because this is a developmental process. But, crazier things have happened. You never know what's going to happen. But overall, I think the Giants are in a solid place. I think that after next season will be the end of the pain. I think that next year is going to be a big upside. You're going to see, hey, like these guys are progressing. If everyone's healthy, if no one gets injured, it is a possibility where this team makes the playoffs next year. That is the best case scenario. Worst case scenario is the injuries happen like last year. We get another top 10 pick next year. And then 2021 is the season where we address the wild card aspirations, the division champions aspirations. But I think we're a year away at this point, and this is a team that can get 8 wins on the year, maybe slide into a wild card if it's a crappy year like it was last year. But overall, Giants fans, I'm happy. I'm looking forward to this. I know a lot of people don't like Gettleman, but if you didn't like what Gettleman did in this draft and what he's done in most drafts, well, you got to go rethink what you're thinking because that is just great drafting from Dave Gettleman. I saw a thing. I mean, his last 4 picks have been Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley, Daniel Jones, and now Andrew Thomas. I mean, this guy has been picking first-round stars, so we'll be able to see what happens next. And if you do want to stick with me and with the Giants, as well as just every other NFL team in the whole league, make sure to subscribe to me. This is going to be a fun NFL offseason for me. We're going to be doing a lot of realistic rebuilds. We're going to be doing a lot more of these grades. It's going to be fun. There's going to be a lot of content, so please be sure to subscribe. Hit that like button if you are new. And, of course, if you did like the video, of course, hit the like button. If you didn't, just refresh the page and try it again. Let me know what you think about it the second time. And without further ado, that's going to be it for me. I'll see you guys in the next one.